What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 1 of an intro series where I'm going to be explaining the Jumpstart rule set for Cyberpunk Red. In this first episode, I'm going to be focusing on character creation by using one of the pre-generated characters, Torch, who's a tech class. This, of course, is all leading up to our first live playthrough for Extra Life on November 2nd. You can find us at twitch.tv/SlightlySaltedSquad or later on YouTube, like you're probably currently watching this. But enough of that. I'm John at ForceInept as always, and let's get into some character creation. For those of you that have actually played another tabletop RPG, whether it's Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder or what have you, this looks probably pretty similar, although maybe a little more daunting. That truly is because of the pre-gen facet of it. On the left-hand side, you can see the roll and then 1 through 6. That's really to randomly determine your stats by rolling a d6 and then going with whatever stat block that is. Otherwise, maybe your GM or Game Master will actually just let you choose whichever fits the character that you really want to play. These statistics, though, go through very similar ones to other role-playing games, but we're going to go through them in depth here. First up, Int for Intelligence, Ref for Reflex, Dex for Dexterity, Tech for Technique, Cool for Cool, Will for Willpower, Luck for Luck, Move for Movement, Body for Body, and Emp for Empathy. So, what does this all mean? A lot of people coming from D&D and everything think it's going to correlate similarly. Well, it actually does. So, first of all, we're going to go with the mental group. Starting with int or intelligence is really how smart your character is. It's not just raw intelligence, though. It's how quickly you perceive things and pick up on things, your ability to learn. Next, we have willpower. That's really kind of your determination, how well you can shrug things off, how you deal with stress and overcome things. Cool. Your cool factor. That is everything in Cyberpunk. Everything. Style over substance is the key to this game. And who doesn't want to have a cool character? Come on. Next up, empathy. So this one doesn't really play a big part in the jumpstart mechanics. I'm sure once the full game comes out with the full rule set, it'll probably be more impactful. But this is really to stave off, make sure I get this correctly, cyberpsychosis, a deadly mental illness common in the dark future. So really, the more cybernetic enhancements you have, the less empathy you can have, and then that can have bad effects. But really, you don't need to worry about that right now. Almost all of these characters have it pretty low anyways, so yeah, you should be good. Next, we're going to get into the combat group, technique or tech. So this is actually the ability to use tools and devices. I mean, this is the, cybernetic future and all that. You're going to be doing a lot of, whether hacking, if you're a net runner, you're going to be using tons of different devices. So obviously, fairly key aspect to this game. Next is reflexes. This is actually about response time coordination. It's for aiming and shooting and really just trying to hit things. So if you're looking to deal damage, probably want to have good reflexes. Next one for the fortune group is luck. This is an interesting one, seen in a few different role-playing mechanics, but you can actually spend these points to add to your dice rolls, which we'll talk about later for ability checks and things like that. So you can add points to your dice roll based on your luck points, and then those replenish at each session. So it's kind of a little different than most systems, but it's probably a pretty important one. Last one is the physical group. So that's body, which is how big you are, your toughness, basically how much damage you can take. Then you've got dexterity, which is your ability to not get hit, to avoid damage, which is very similar to Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder, which affects your armor class. So again, how easy you are to hit. And then finally, we've got movement, which is your movement. So that makes sense, I hope. Next up, hit points. You can see here we've got starting hits, seriously wounded, and then death saves. Hit points are how much damage you can take until you're down for the count. This is based on your body stat as mentioned earlier. So, for the example, let's take Torch here. he has a body score of 5. That means he has 25 hit points. Essentially, it is the body stat multiplied by 5. So if you got a body stat of 2, you have 10 hit points, etc. There's a nice little chart as well. You can always take a look at that. The wound threshold is your starting hit points divided by 2, rounded up. So if you got 20 hit points, you've got 10 wound threshold. If you got 25 hit points like Torch here, then you've got a 13 wound threshold. And then we get to death saves. That is the equivalent of your body stat. So obviously, higher the body stat, the more damage you can take, and the harder you are to kill. Next up is skills. Basically the things characters are good at and know how to do. With pre-generated characters like Torch here, you're going to have those skills already filled out, but I'm going to go over kind of the different groupings of skill sets as there are. So for example, though, Torch has athletics and cyber tech and persuasion, all things based on his stat modifiers and skill set that he will increase his rolls at. But the skills are broken down into 9 different skill categories. There's fighting skills, which is hand-to-hand and melee combat. There's ranged weapon skills, shooting. Awareness skills, how well you investigate and notice things and are aware of potential threats. Control skills, whether you're controlling vehicles or riding animals, things like that. You've got body skills, which is physical tasks like running and jumping and breaking down doors and all that stuff. Social skills, which give you better abilities to persuade people, to lie to people, fit in places. You've got your technique skills, which is trained vocational skills and craftsmanship abilities. Yeah, they're trained ones. Performance skills, so acting, musicianship, special effects, makeup, etc. And educational skills. Knowledge and training based on formal education. So for D&D, for example, that'd be like knowledge history and things like that. Your character's life path is one of the few things that's not pre-populated on your pre-gen character sheet. So for Torch here, you can either go through, you can roll D10s and go through a big flow chart and fill all these out. Or if you want to talk to your GM, like I personally usually do, you can actually pick out different backstories and really make it to what character you want to play. But for the sake of D10s, I'm going to go through here and roll them right now. Okay, trusty D10. First up, background. Got a 5. My family vanished and I'm the only remaining member. Well, that's not a great start, now is it? Motivation, got a 2. Honor. So even though the only one left in my family, honor is everything. Probably because I have nothing else. Goals. Let's see, 8. Save, if possible, anyone else involved in my background, which is essentially I'm the only one left, but I'm sure somebody saved me or something like that. That's up to you to kind of flesh out those gaps. They make it vague enough to really give depth to your character. You can draw that out. Next up, friends. 3. A teacher or mentor. So maybe the mentor that took me in because all my family vanished and I'm the only one there. See, enemies. An ex-lover. Scorned. When my family vanished, she left me because my family had all the riches. Already bitter. Let's see, next up is romance. Number 3, it just didn't work out. Well, that works out well because my ex-lover betrayed me and has ruined my life. And finally, personality. 9, intellectual and detached. Probably because I was scorned by an ex-lover who left me because my family all vanished. So yeah, I'd be pretty upset about that too. So, Next we got armor and then weapons. These are a little more straightforward. If you're doing the pre-gen characters, they're already filled out for you. Armor, for example, for Torch is light armor jack. So that's the actual name of the armor type that you're wearing. Most notably different from Dungeons and Dragons and other things is that there's actually head armor and body armor. These can have different values. In this case, they're both the same at 11, but you could have, for example, a helmet and no body armor. Seems like a poor choice. Or more likely, body armor and no helmet, because you really want to have that cool factor. So really, we're going to get into the details of those once we get into the combat sections, but just want to cover that real quick. Don't worry too much about it right now. Next up, we have weapons. So for example, Torch here has big knucks. Those are actually cyber weapons, which we'll get into in a little bit. A heavy pistol and a shotgun. Next to it, you have the damage. The nice thing about this is heavy pistol, shotgun, they're very open to interpretation, whatever flavor you want to add to them, whether it's you got a giant revolver, you've got a sawed-off shotgun, whatever you want, the damage stays the same. But it's open for you to flavor it however you want. And finally, we come to cyberware and gear, what truly does make Cyberpunk Cyberpunk. So for Torch here, we've got cyber arm with big knucks. So this is actually a black market cyberware item. Essentially, it's reinforced knuckle bones, giving fists the impact value of brass knuckles, doing 2d6 damage. So these are things concealed inside the arms. Similar, another one is rippers, which are those scythe-like objects that can come out of the arms, seen in the Cyberpunk 2077 videos. And then you've got cyber optic camera. So he can record images with built-in chip and download. So it can be audio, there can be visual, there can be reflex enhancements, there can be fashion accessories. It's really how you want to make it. Some are very openly cyber enhancements. Some are the more black market ones like rippers and these big knucks. Then you got gear. The agent is a very standard item. Essentially think of like a smartphone but on steroids that you can plug into things and hack things and, you know, live your life. And then, of course, the gear. If you're a driver, you probably have a car. Considering this is Torch, you get a large box filled with a number of tools to allow and make repairs on basic tech and cyber tech. So, there you go. And there you have it. You have your own Cyberpunk Red character. Granted, it was pre-generated and almost all the work was done for you, but now I hope you have a better understanding how that works and really how easy they've made it with this Jumpstart Kit to jump into the Cyberpunk world, whether it's your first time role-playing or you're a seasoned veteran. Of course, you can always customize and create your own character without the pre-generated. Just talk to your GM. And one thing too is, this is all a shell. All these stats, you can leave those the same. Change your character, change whatever you want about them. It's all just part of the story, and make sure you can connect with that character. I hope you enjoyed episode 1 where we focused on character creation. Join us next time for episode 2 where we're going to be focusing on those ability checks. And of course, you can always watch us live for our first game on November 2nd for Extra Life at twitch.tv/slightlysaltedsquad. Until next time, guys, stay salted.